Hello, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Parent Cafe podcast. My name is Allie.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are joined today by
Patty.
Patty. Hi, Patty. Thanks for coming on today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the listeners, just in case they don't know you or have never heard of you before?
Just as I mentioned, my name is Patty Patten, and I've been in the fitness industry as a professional for probably 15 years, but I've been highly involved in fitness for the last probably 25 years. So that either means on a high level sport basis personally, or just training to stay active.
Have you been in Edson your whole life? Are you from Edson?
No, I'm not from Edson. So I've moved here about 8 years ago after my husband and I had been living in Wainwright, and that's where I worked with the military on the base there. But I'm originally from the Grand Prairie area. Yeah, so that's actually where I started my fitness career. I went to NATE for the PFT, the personal training program, and then got hired on by the military there and worked a full-time job getting troops ready to be deployable. So, and my group was the guys who just came from basic training. So I could kind of do that with them.
So I know this is going to be super off topic. Is there like a military training that you had to do to teach them? Or is it different?
Yeah, good question. So I was a civilian working on the base, and I worked for an organization called PSP. And yeah, I had to go through the 2-week PSP indoctrination course. Basically, it was what it is in just outside of Barrie. And yeah, you have to have a certain level of fitness to maintain your position.
Wow.
That's extremely cool. Yeah. I feel like now I just want to talk about the military, but I know we're here.
It's really different because I breathed my work. It was 8 12-hour days.
Wow.
And then we were in Afghanistan. And so troops, we were getting them to be deployed for a reason. Wow. And that's, I think, partly why I have such a passion about how fitness can really improve your overall lifestyle versus a look or, just taking a weekend course or my background is very different and varied.
Yeah, no,
in terms of how I feel about fitness.
Yeah. It does sound genuinely like lifestyle versus, like you say, like a weekend course to do, like to get a look or, like that kind of thing.
Like not only were we held to a certain level of fitness to maintain, but also as a female being in a very male dominated industry, number one, number two, not being military. So you're always looked at like you are not a part of our group. And I just need you to get to my next level, even if we're fitness testing, because if they want it, and mind you, I'll preface, I still am friends with a lot of military members. So I think I bridged that gap pretty well. There would be people who might disagree, but I did my job okay. So, but we did have to do a lot of fitness testing in order for them to get, to their next level. And it could have been anything from a pool session, like seeing if they could swim, because a lot of military members couldn't, all the way to doing just regular fitness assessments, and then teaching them how to be better with their own troops and learning different fitness techniques. But yeah, and when they were in Afghanistan, it could have been a guy who didn't have a hand anymore trying to do push-ups. So he would get his next level. So
yeah, I'm curious then, because we'll be talking about like the pelvic floor and our bodies as women, and after birth, during having like pregnancy, maybe even prior to, if we can touch on that. But How did you like translate? So like where you came from and now kind of what you're doing, how did that, like where that interest come from?
So when we left Wainwright, I was jobless when we moved here because we moved for my husband's job.
Right.
And there seemed to be such a high number of personal trainers. And I'd never done private industry, but I thought, well, I'll try it. And I had done quite a bit of ultra running when I was with the military, and done ultra running training camps with the military, because the military at the time was big into death race and all these kinds of things that kind of helped pick up their overall, team feeling outside of just being on the base and whatever they had to do together. So I did that there, and moving to Edson, it was kind of like, oh, we're so much closer to the mountains. Like, I don't have to run these river hills like the Battle River. Not that there was anything wrong with the Battle River, but it was just like, I don't have to take a whole weekend. I can go for a day. And I was just so grateful to be close to the mountains. And I soon figured out there was more people who had were interested in trail running and doing trail running, and had never really been exposed to my style of training. And so I kind of built a clientele based around that right off the bat, and became really busy. I did realize I was quite intense, and I had to always remember that, these people are paying. I'm not being paid by an organization to get them into shape, and it matters if they like me.
Right.
So,
they're not military.
You weren't training them for the military.
No. So that's always been kind of a take it or leave it
right.
with me, which I totally understand. People get what they're paying for, but I deliver one kind of fitness and other people deliver other kinds of fitness.
So then that business then was like trail running training for like marathon type.
So I started training a bunch of, there's a lot of road runners here. Okay. And I just was like, why are you running on the road when you're so close to trails? So, started to get connected with people in the running community, and then started training people for death race and just opening up their mind to what could be achieved. And pretty soon lots of people left the road and started going onto the trails. And I've had a pretty good success rate on death race solo finishers now. So it's exciting. And there's a really good running community here. And then the other thing I was really focused on too was really teaching women how to strength train in my personal professional opinion properly. Right. And getting them to lift more weights and dropping the word toned and exercise and more saying like, I want to get stronger. I want to train. And just kind of hopefully within my, I think there's a certain type of person that's attracted to what I do. And so they're kind of ready for that change and kind of ready for a no holds bar, no BS approach.
I want to say it's never affected me. I'm sure it has, but for other women, like it's so hard to even be online because you're like bombarded by that. And there's not enough messaging out there for like, no, just.
I do. Yeah. I wish there was more, because I do come at training from an athletic point of view or a rehabilitative point of view. So how is this going to make you either perform better or feel better?
Right.
And I wish I was actually just having this conversation with someone yesterday. No athlete is super, super lean. I'm not talking about a CrossFit. I'm talking about an actual athlete.
Right.
I mean, track athletes are really lean, but that's the peak of their season. And that's maybe 3 to 5 months. And then their whole training system is going to look different on the opposite end. So as an athlete, you're used to either being, a little bit lighter, a little bit heavier. You're focusing on power and strength. Maybe you're trying to eat a few more calories so you can gain the power, the strength. And then when you're doing it, maybe you're leaner because you're just burning more calories. Right. But in terms of an actual look and maintaining, that looks different for everybody. What my normal is going to look different from both of your normals. It's just what you're able to maintain and feel happy doing.
Yeah.
But to have, for women to have this ideal body after, especially after having children, and gravity and age and hormones, like it's just such a ridiculous concept. And I do think that women typically put the pressure on themselves, because I don't even think husbands and men care.
No.
So that's the whole other side of it. You know, it's just, you're doing all this work and, you know, you say it's for you, but what is the point?
Who is it really for?
If it doesn't give you an actual long lasting change.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think some women don't know what they want. Like, so they are going to that, like, well, I want to look toned and I want to look that, because like, they don't know that I just want to feel better. Like, they just don't know what they're looking for, because there is so many mixed messages out there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know if my body can go there. Like, I've never had like a 6-pack. And I used to like swim every single day for 3 hours at 5 a.m. like all through high school. I never had a 6-pack, you know, and I was like carb loading the night before. And like, it was just like, can my body even do that? Like, why would I put that pressure on myself for something that I don't even know that I can go there? I just, you know, as long as I can run a good enough distance and feel good after I've done it, or, you know, wake up in the morning and feel healthy and good, or
like be able to get up in the morning and
but I think there's these ideals out there.
I agree. I mean, a 6-pack is not a barometer for health.
No. And we're almost like made to believe that, though. We're almost made to believe like, oh, here's your 6-pack, here's your toned butt, here's your,
this is what you're supposed to look like, and if you don't, then you're not healthy.
Or you're not athletic.
Right. And I wonder too, if because I'm 38, if in like, I was, I think, one of the last age groups to graduate high school without a cell phone.
Right.
And so I came into social media. I mean, I joined social media a few years ago, but only for a business purpose, not for, you know, connection, which I know we're lucky to have social media now for connection. And I really appreciate it for business, because I'm still able to do classes, but I think I'm just too old. And so I was lucky enough to see it as, you know, a source of, well, that is very fake, or nobody looks like that. Or frankly, I just don't care. I just don't care. I mean, the alternative to aging is death. And I mean, you're lucky to be alive for another day and another day. And so I think women miss the appreciation, you know, what their bodies are able to do. And you can say it all the time, and it's like, oh, I'm fine with my stretch marks. And sure, sometimes it sucks. But I don't think you appreciate your 20-year-old body until you're almost 40. And then you think, oh, wow, I looked great. So it's just like, nobody cares what you look like in a bathing suit. Nobody cares. And if people do, then you need new friends or new
30 looking at my 17-year-old body, I'm like,
why did I think that way?
I should have been at the beach every day. Like, that was good.
And it's like, appreciate those moments. Like, man, I look so good. But now I'm also, do I want to be in my 17-year-old brain or my 38-year-old brain? Hell no.
No.
I want to be.
Hell no.
I just no way.
I do not want to go back there.
No.
No matter what my body looked like.
No.
Not worth it. No. If you're thinking about your body and it's like, oh, but if I have children, I'm going to ruin what I have. Like, a lot of people go there, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, maybe I'll put it off some more, maybe, or if I have kids, maybe I'll just, you know, diet super strict while I'm pregnant, or keep working out while pregnant, just so then maybe like I'll have a flat stomach a few months after I deliver. And like, you hear these things, and like, this is reality for a lot of people. And so it's like,
wow,
what can we like message out there that's like pointing women in the right direction to say like, no, like, your body's going to go through what it needs to go through.
So many changes.
Create a life.
Oh, and hormonal changes too. I mean, you can't, physiology, we are built to have babies for a reason. And so, every human body is different. So even if I make a program, even if they look somewhat the same, they're going to be slightly different because no one human is the same. I do think the promotion of active, healthy lifestyle, I wish that people derived intrinsic joy from being active, not extrinsic joy or a short-term goal. So for me, getting outside, even if it's -40, but the sun is shining, I'm happy for half an hour if I'm bundled up. That I genuinely look forward to that. Going out for a run for me. Now you don't have to run, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
That being outside is my intrinsic joy. And I wish that parents would model that maybe a little bit more for their children, that, my kids know if I'm in the garage by myself, sometimes I want them in there and sometimes they need to not be there because this is my time. I'm not answering questions. I am doing my workout and it doesn't involve anyone else. And I think that's okay. I think that is more than okay, actually. They recognize when I'm in there and that's a no-go zone, or sometimes it's like, yeah, come in, do your 20 minutes with us, we'll have fun, and then you're bored and you're done. But they were able to move and it wasn't a forced habit. And they also see their parents moving. But all of these things need to be modeled. And, the one good thing about coming out of COVID is that our schedules have been completely opened up. We don't have sanctioned time where my kids in this and my kids in this and my kids in this and my kids in this. And we've kind of held back on that because I just feel like our kids are little for so short. And then by the time they're 10, they're gone. They are going to be in stuff all the time because they want to be. And I want them to be too, to have those experiences. But to just be able to play and move and sweat and feel good it has to start. I think it really has to start young so that you can develop that sense of joy from moving.
Yeah, I completely
agree. And then,
agree.
that just kind of parlays with your life as your life evolves. So when you get pregnant, unless it's told to you by your doctor, but if you have a normal pregnancy and you're, don't have any high risks, then you can move and walk and lift weights. I had so many comments, and luckily we are moving in a better direction that way, but still work personal training at the gym, being 7 months pregnant, still lifting weights because I felt good and doing a relatively high level of fitness, but it was probably 60 to 70% lower than what I was doing before, but still able to move because I've been moving the entire time.
No matter how pregnant you are, if you're healthy, you can do the things you want to do. Or it's like you can and you're capable, and you shouldn't approach pregnancy as like a thing that's going to cripple you, especially if you're able to have a healthy pregnancy. So that's always been.
It's like, not a disease.
Yeah.
But the most, and I mean, but some people, I'm talking about a healthy, normal individual, not someone who is high risk or throwing up and their doctor's telling them not to, because then it can feel like it's a disease.
Absolutely.
But if you are training normally before, in that first few months, you can kind of feel like you're dying. But then once you start to pick up again, you absolutely can go back to the gym and do the things that you were doing pretty close to the same, right? For as long as you feel good. It's easy to move when the baby's in you. It's harder after the baby comes out of you, because then there is that rehab part that does need to take place. And that, it's a trauma. It should be, instead of saying bounce back, everyone should say I'm rehabbing, because you are rehabbing. And it not just physically that you can see, but you're rehabbing all the hormones that have had to go through your body to have a baby. And now if you're breastfeeding, you're still going to keep some of those hormones maybe a little bit longer. So
Yeah. So, having a pregnancy, giving birth, so after birth, that's a traumatic experience, especially I guess like a first birth would be like your body's never experienced that before. And although it's like meant to do that, it just is a new thing. So obviously, naturally, it would take a few weeks before a person feels anywhere close to normal or whatever their new normal is going to look like post pregnancy. So are there things that I guess like during pregnancy, are there things that are just so important that no matter how you feel, you shouldn't not be doing? Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, number one is always listen to your body because your body knows. So I wish women would stop ignoring cues from their body. Like if you're hungry, eat. If you're tired, sleep. If you feel like you have energy, work out. If you don't and you feel stressed, don't do any of that.
Right.
So listening to your body would be number one. And number two, like your gut feeling. Number two would be listening to your doctor. Number three would be really focusing on your pelvic floor. So just doing breath work to make sure that you are engaging your pelvic floor properly, because those can be done sitting on the couch watching Netflix.
Right.
They don't have to be really high, obviously high intensity. And the nice thing about pelvic floor exercises, because they are so specific, you typically you have to quiet yourself down, maybe close your eyes. It can become a form of meditation to make sure that you are engaging the muscles where you need to be.
I don't think I've ever heard of pelvic floor exercise before I heard of you like doing postnatal wellness.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't either when I was pregnant. Like it was like I took like a prenatal class or whatever, and it was like do your like Kegels kind of stuff like that. Yeah. But that was it. It was like, okay, this is kind of what you do. You can do it just sitting, but then it wasn't like the breathing and it's like doctors don't really talk about it. And now I like look back after like listening to like a couple classes with you. I'm like, this probably would have helped me a lot through labor as well, just to control breathing and like my muscles with breathing and stuff like that. But I didn't know of it, right?
I know. And I didn't know anything about pelvic floor. I just assumed like I had been a high level athlete for, 10 to 15 years. Then I worked for the military. I ran ultra races. I lifted, like I had a super strong core. I mean, I spent most of my childhood into my early 20s doing karate, jumping on hardwood floor with no shoes. Like I could, people could punch me. I'd feel nothing. I was like steel. And then I had Danny, my first child, and 6 weeks, my doctor said 6 weeks, you can go back to everything normal. So to me, I was like, I'm going to go for a run. And I leaked everywhere. And at first I was like, I didn't even know what was happening because I had never heard of it before. And I was a personal trainer, had just had a baby, had no idea what was happening. And I thought, frig, what is going on? And like that really affected my mental health because for me, moving is everything. It's how I get through the hardships and the good things in life. It's how I bond with my children. It's sometimes how I bond with my husband. It is moving, and to not be able to move the way I wanted to was devastating, to say the least. And it took a long time for me to, rehab myself by just researching. And then finally, we were lucky. We are so lucky. We have a pelvic floor physio in Edson.
Yeah, that's new.
But, I wonder how many women that's happened to, and, beyond generations, like women always laugh like, oh, I can't laugh, or I can't jump on a trampoline, or
I think that becomes like a normal.
And it doesn't. It's become normal. And then not only, you could have leakage, but you could have lower back pain, which becomes chronic, not just acute. You can have pain during sex. You can have a bowel prolapse. Like these are awful, awful things that affect your complete quality of life. And so they should be taken very seriously. And I'm just happy there's so much information out there now, but again, there's so much information. So I always say you have your baby, you go to your doctor, and then I always say you have to go to a pelvic floor physio because they do your internal examination. They will give you the exercises, and then I can kind of help carry on past that.
So would you say it's like never too late for that?
Never, ever, ever. And you should go for pelvic floor physio checkups because we don't know what's happening in there. Like if everything feels good, great. But I think every few years you should book yourself in for a pelvic floor physio because maybe you're getting close to having a hysterectomy. You don't know. Is your uterus going to fall out? Is your bladder going to fall out? And you don't necessarily have those physical cues to let you know that might be coming. And it gets worse as we get older because we lose estrogen. And so the tightness of those muscles loosens regardless of how much strengthening you are doing.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious then, would you say like the pelvic floor in general, so like the pelvic floor as the pelvic floor, is that something that women are or should be looking at exercising, or I guess like, could I call it exercise? It'd be exercising your pelvic floor. So would that be like before baby, during pregnancy, after pregnancy, for the rest of your life?
Actually, well, we had just mentioned earlier about what girls should know in high school.
Right.
I think pelvic floor would be a really good,
like just,
not just you're going to get your period and don't get pregnant, but can we please move beyond that message? But actually, and you're the bad one for getting pregnant too. So take that.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Yes. I wish, they having a pelvic floor person come in and explain anatomy because lifting heavy really is very popular right now. But a lot of CrossFitters have pelvic floor dysfunction, power lifters have pelvic floor dysfunction. And if you are a female and you're going to train like a man, that's fine. And there could be a million people that would say, well, I've never had a problem. And that's wonderful. You have a very strong pelvic floor, breath, core connection. So did I. I was a fighter for 15 years. They are the most fit athletes where I was jumping all the time. And I still had pelvic floor dysfunction after having a child. So the more stress you put on the body, so high intensity, strength, you are going to be putting more stress on your pelvic floor. And you just need to make sure that you are aware of what those muscles even are, because if you do like high intensity exercise, you probably harder for you to sit, be quiet, and do exercises that you don't really feel anything. So the importance of just knowing that if you take care of that pelvic floor, you're going to be able to do the stuff that you really enjoy for longer. And I would say too, for men, it's important because I have a hypothesis that groin injuries that lots of men have going quick lateral movements is a weak pelvic floor. And, they can have bowel issues as well. And so they do have they have a pelvic floor as well. It just looks a little bit different.
Well, we're all women before gender selection.
Yes, exactly.
You have something.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah. So are the pelvic floor and something like I'm gonna butcher it, the like abdomen separation,
right?
Diastasis recti, is that right?
Yeah.
So are they related?
They can be related and they can be non-related. So a lot of times if you have a cesarean, you might not have as harsh as pelvic floor issues because the baby was cut out of you. It didn't have to go through the vaginal vaginal canal, but you might have diastasis recti, which could then later create pelvic floor issues, because if your muscles are too far apart, so our muscles, we want them to be here. And if they are too far apart, so either, I think it's more than 2 to 3 centimeters. Don't quote me on that. I always have to look it up. If you're further than that, either vertically or horizontally, then your muscles, when they expand, are going to press down on that pelvic floor and create a higher risk of a prolapse happening.
So there's probably no way really to avoid your muscles separating like that?
They're going to separate no matter what. It's just after baby, they might come back together and they might not.
Right.
So if they don't come back together, which is really normal, everyone usually has some degree, and they can come back fully. And unless you have you can have up to a 10 centimeter separation for some women. Okay. So we just want to make sure that we get under that 3 to 2. I'm not totally sure what it is. I think it's under 3 centimeter. And then you should be able to do exercise as you were before.
Okay.
Oh, so there is a fix to it. Like
there is a fix. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. You may be stuck to some level with diastasis recti, but you should be able to hopefully rehab it enough so that it shouldn't affect your quality of life without having to get surgery or anything.
And would that be something that you'd go see a physiotherapist for? Like you'd recommend that, or a personal trainer that is like trained in that? So.
Yeah, I always recommend go see your physio, your pelvic floor physio. Even a physio can probably I can usually diagnose it too, but go see a physio. They'll diagnose your separation, and then you can get working on your core exercises.
What are some signs of, I'm not going to say the word, the separation?
You can stand tall in a mirror and have a light colored tank top on, and you'll see, so your muscles would be here, an opening. You'll see an opening if you pull the tank top tight across your belly, where our muscles are supposed to come down the center. It will be open, and it's usually really easy to see around the belly button. You'll see it.
Okay.
It will look like, it will be almost like an hourglass kind of.
So no matter, I guess,
you can stick your fingers. Yeah, if you can stick your fingers right through your abdominal wall, you've got separation.
Okay.
So there's the first layer of your core, which we call the 6-pack.
Yeah.
And then there'd be those deep core muscles underneath, which a lot of times you'll hear referred to as the corset. And that's what we want.
Okay.
That's what helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the muscles that we want to be training. It's also your diaphragm. We don't want the diaphragm to be too tight, because we want, after the baby's been in our stomach and we run out of room, we're breathing from our chest, and we want that belly breath to come back so that we're not shortening our breath and making our diaphragm tighter. So with your pelvic floor, you always want to take a nice inhale through your nose and feel that belly expand, and you're relaxing everything in this moment. So we aren't squeezing all of our muscles down there. We're letting them relax as we're doing that inhale through our nose and letting that belly expand. And then you're going to exhale with an audible sound so that you can train yourself through your mouth to feel that pelvic floor come up and back towards your belly button. Okay. And that's what we want. So we don't want that diaphragm to be controlling the top part of our core and our ribs. And some women can get such a tight diaphragm, they need to massage it out, because it will just really hold us in tight, and it will constantly put pressure on our pelvic floor when we aren't breathing properly.
Yeah. So when you're exercising too, like when you put your lower back flat against the floor, is that helping with the pelvic floor also? Like, I know there's that difference. Like some people lift their back when they're like on their back, but then I've heard you put your lower back down and it's helping like that lower core muscle too.
Yeah. And it's the reason why that's such a good cueing technique is because it's easier to feel, number one. Number two, when you pull that or your pelvis, the top of your pelvis down to the ground, you're going to get out of your hip flexors, get your low core moving. It's easier for your breath to do that movement. And also you're going into neutral spine, and neutral spine is so important for postpartum moms when you go back into exercise, because you've usually been hyperflexing through your low back and through your chest, and then rolling forward at the same time. So we want, again, to teach that low back. We want to keep that natural curve that's there. But if we're going into a squat, if we're lifting anything up, we want to make sure that we're learning what that neutral spine is again, and then getting those low core muscles to work. Because, you're carrying a child carrier, and those are not easy or like to lift, and you need to be hopefully going into neutral spine, because on top of that, you still have relaxin hormone in your body, and your hips and your pelvis have shifted. And so how many moms are always going to chiropractor and taking the time and having excruciating pain instead of just doing 5-10 minutes 3 times a week exercise?
And because they don't know.
No.
Right.
Like, and that's where it's hard, because it's, I know a lot of young new moms. And so then when they start talking about, oh yeah, my doctor's okayed me to exercise again. And it's like, okay, so what does that look like compared to what you did before baby? Because if you didn't exercise much before baby, and then you didn't exercise much during, you didn't have an active lifestyle, what does that okay from the doctor mean to you? And is that going to even do more harm maybe than good, because you're not prepared.
Exactly.
And all that's in your mind is losing baby fat.
Yeah.
Rather than like, I feel like I'm saying so many like just bad things.
It's making me cringe thinking about that.
But it's such reality for so many women, because in their mind it's just, I gotta get rid of my baby fat.
You have to bounce back right away after
whatever that means.
Got the clear. Yeah, whatever that's supposed to mean, right?
I mean, and so then that kind of makes me think of also, we did get someone who wanted to talk about like breasts and, like your chest area after, I'm assuming after breastfeeding, maybe it would be,
or even after just having a baby.
They do fill like when you're pregnant, and then they do deflate after those hormones are gone. So I know there's like certain things maybe you can't fix, but is there some things women can be doing pre, during, post that would help with that?
I mean, we're all predisposed to where we carry fat as a female. So some women might carry it in their bellies. Some women might carry it in their boobs. Some women might carry it in their butt. We're all going to carry fat differently. And when you have a baby, because of our hormones, the breasts do fill and expand, and lots of people experience stretch marks, because they can go like, I was like an A and went to like a D. It's like, wow, I could have used these as a teenager, but now I'm over it. So it just, it just depends on how, and your genetics, like what the elasticity is within your skin, what your overall weight gain was in pregnancy. So are your breasts going to go back to what they did pre-baby? No, not even if you have implants, they won't. They will be saggier, number one. Number two, get over it. You had a healthy breastfeed. So, I mean, breastfeeding, although I hate the messaging there too, where it's like, you have to breastfeed. I think there's formula for a reason. So you need to do whatever is going to work. But if you were able to breastfeed, then your uterus shrunk a lot smaller, a lot faster. So there's those you're burning calories because you are breastfeeding. So there's all of those positives. But on the last thing, in terms of, having nice shoulders, put some meat on those shoulders, doing a chest Chest exercises are great too, because your muscle will help elevate the breast tissue, regardless if there's anything in there or not. And, at the end of the day, if you have a dress that you need to fill out, just buy some chicken cutlets.
Yeah.
You can run and not be bothered, and then you can stuff when you need to.
There you go.
There's tools for that.
I heard once before, and I don't know if maybe you've heard of this or you can squash this rumor for me. But I heard somewhere that wearing a bra is like negative for the muscles in your breasts because it's like doing the work for you. And if you don't wear a bra, then the muscles like above your chest have to work to hold up that fat. Is that true? Like I heard this and I was like, do I need to throw my bras away?
A man wrote that.
Well, I mean, I would first ask your friend who's a double D if they feel like walking around braless and how that feels on your back. Yeah, I would say, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
It feels ridiculous.
You need to be comfortable, and that not wearing a bra versus doing a few push-ups. A few push-ups is going to far surpass what a bra ever does. I remember going to a running clinic and the guy was French who was doing it, and he was very into minimalism, which I loved. But you have to take it in context. And he said the number one business for athletic wear is running shoes. So the more stuff there's on the running shoe, like the more padding, the more they can sell it for. And the other thing comes to bras. Do you have to wear a bra? Is it going to hurt you to not wear a bra if you're running? So he said in France, the only place they would ever do this, they had a group who wore bras and a group who didn't wear bras. And the lady, he said after took a year for the women who were chesty to feel comfortable enough running to wear a bra. Now, do I think that's worth it? No. Do I think you're going to have long-lasting health benefits? Absolutely not. Yeah. I mean, if you want to run and be active or wear a bra, go for it. If you don't, then don't.
Yeah, I know. And I feel that on a spin bike too, you have that up and down, you're moving constantly if you're getting up out of the saddle, sitting back down. And if I wear a bra, like a sports bra that's like that light, they market them where it's like light support, medium support, maximum support, like all these different support levels. If it's something where it's like super low support, I feel strain. Yeah. And that's a half hour, 40 minutes on a bike. I can't even imagine running for an hour braless. I'm and
I
so
think
painful.
Yeah, a lot of women who are heavy chested that are just trying to get into fitness, they do struggle with that too, because they can't find a bra that's supportive enough. So then they almost it deters them to keep going because they are in pain and stuff too.
Right. Yeah, I think I don't have this problem, but my friends say, I think Lululemon has some really good ones and Under Armour, but it's expensive too. And that's kind of unfair. And I know, but I would spend the money on a couple of good sports bras and so you're comfortable.
I think that, there's ways around it too. I think if you're someone who does have very large breasts, and that is maybe the thing that's keeping you from going out for a run or doing something that's cardio in general. Not every person needs to do cardio to lose extra weight or to feel better. Right. So those women might be happy doing just some floor exercises or weights, weightlifting,
or walking. You don't have to run, and it doesn't have to be high intensity. Or you can do full body squats and lunges and push-ups slowly and controlled, and that's cardio. You're just moving your body.
I think that goes back to just not knowing what your body needs or what you really enjoy doing. It's if you don't enjoy running, you're not going to be a runner.
No,
and
that's just, yeah. Yeah. And we had mentioned earlier too, you know, that's why it's so important to get our kids moving intrinsically, enjoying what they love to do and exposing them to a variety of different movement patterns and sports. And so when they get into adulthood and they do go through actual stressors in life, like losing a family member, a divorce, having a child, losing a job, getting a job, working more, kids going to school, you know what your outlet is because you know who you are. And I think women are not given that opportunity, unfortunately. You know, it's okay if they drop out. I remember a distinct moment. You know, I'm an only child, and so I was not spoiled with things. I'm not a things person. I care less if I drive the oldest vehicle. That is not my motivator, but I was definitely spoiled with attention, and I loved sports. And I remember being a blue belt, and I must have been about grade 5 or grade 6, and I wanted to quit karate. I was a brown belt. I was really close to my black belt. And my parents said, no, like you're going to get your black belt and then we'll see, but you need to finish this out. And the next year they had Alberta Winter Games, and I went as a complete underdog in my division for fighting, and I ended up winning. And I got my black belt, and then the next year I was on the national team, and then I was able to go to Pan Ams, and I got a medal at the Pan Americans. And it just kind of built from there. And so I do think there is, you know, as parents, we are not our kids' friends. And I really wish that when girls, and I was at that stage, you know, 11, 12, 13, you know, people were stopping doing things and they weren't maybe in their sport. My parents were like, no, this is what you're going to do. You signed up for it and you're going to finish it at least to this level. And then we'll see. And I shudder to think where my life would have gone had I not completed that, because it was such a huge door opener for me. I mean, being a part of a national team and understanding levels of training and spending 2 weeks at a national camp, I was exposed to high-level trainers, what nutrition looks like, how to train like an athlete, what rest time is, how to handle stress in high-level competition. All of these things as a 14-year-old until you're 20, I mean, that's life basically. And I got to do it in a fun 2-week place in a different part of Canada with kids from all over the place. I mean, it was a diverse situation too. I was a kid who grew up on a buffalo ranch in Bezanson, Alberta. And I was I was hanging out with kids who lived in downtown Toronto or were from Vancouver Island. And so we were the color spectrum, experience spectrum. One of the kids had just gotten out of Sarajevo. He had come over with his family and they were refugees, but he was an amazing fighter because he'd done karate there. And so it really is a gateway. Sports is such a positive gateway to finding confidence, and maybe what you want to do in life. And more importantly, just having that, I keep saying it, but that intrinsic joy from movement, whatever that is.
Right. And continuing an activity as a kid too, you're understanding your body better into adulthood.
Yeah. So, do you find a lot of girls these days are dropping out of sports?
Right before COVID last year, I was lucky enough, I'd work with the basketball team, and we would, have all these strength sessions, and they'd work really hard, and it was so fun. And the girls would never join. And the difference was you know, the girls, it seemed like you didn't have to try out for the team because there just wasn't enough. And then the boys had to try out for the team to get on it. And you know, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an Edson thing, but something is happening around, I think, the age of 13. You know, when somebody said to me, oh, well, lots of girls, they like riding quads and skidoos. And I thought, okay, that's great.
Like
that's
hunting.
not a sport.
Hunting.
And hunting, yeah, that's good as long as you're hunting, not your boyfriend. Yeah. So, you know, and I grew up hunting too, but you can also do a sport and do hunting. So, yeah, I don't know what is happening, but there is a definite drop off. It seems like at 13, and you know, even working with hockey players, they're all boys. I've never worked with I've worked with one female hockey player, and she graduated high school a few years ago and went to university, I think, on her hockey scholarship. So that was good. One girl out of 8 years, and I've probably worked with 10 to 15, you know, 20, I don't know, probably way more than that, boys.
Wow. It's something that I think needs to be brought back into the schools then, where it's like, this is the conversation about your pelvic floor, about what your body needs to be able to do moving forward. Like, what's your life going to look like?
Right.
Rather than.
And parents need to model, not say. Yes. But even last year during COVID, I started doing a karate class with Danny and Lucy because it was only 30 minutes. It was 3 days a week. And it was like the basement was the dojo. They had to bow to get in. Like, it was very serious, 9 to 9:30. And it was just move and then, okay, we feel better. Even on the days that they weren't super loving it, it was like, I can offer this skill and this is what we're doing. But, you know, I had parents contacting me because they were like, well, you should do a Zoom karate class. And it's like, no, you need to move. Your child needs to move. It doesn't have to be karate. Set up an obstacle course and just try and do it. Or put on a playlist and dance with your child. Just move somehow and do it with your child so they can see you're modeling the behavior, because words only last so long.
And it's the same for everything, right? It's like screen time or reading books. If you have a parent that's reading a book and as a child you see that, you're going to go pick up a book. If you have a parent that's on the like on their phone, you're going to be screaming bloody murder till someone gives you a tablet. Like, it is like modeling for your children. That's like basic stuff, but you're kind of just like banging your head against a wall to get people there, you know. And it's really valuable information though, because, you know, this morning, so I'm walking away thinking more about my pelvic floor than I've ever really thought about it. Like, I think about my like lower, like my tailbone and my lower back being on the floor. And like, those are things that I know to do, but I never, like, the breathing exercises is not something I ever considered. So
yeah, really, the pelvic floor is the base to quality of life, sexually and physically, which then leads to mentally.
Listen up, everyone.
If you have a weak pelvic floor, then you know, and you're leaking and your low back hurts, it's going to affect the rest of everything else that you enjoy to do in life. You will be affected.
Wow. Yeah. I think I think people hearing that too, that information is so beneficial to a lot of people. Like, I know I'm going to probably go take a break and breathe into my pelvic floor. I'm not even lying. Like, I've been thinking about it this whole time. I'm like, I'm going to go try that. I'm going to go look it up, see what it's supposed to feel like, look like. But like, it's good information, and women are struggling. They don't feel the way that they felt before having baby. They have low self-esteem. They don't feel adequate or sexy or good enough, or
even know where to start.
And like, where is their base? What was their baseline? Where do they go from here? And
well, do you know where they can go from here? Patty is actually doing an exercise and educate session in February for us. I think it's on Tuesdays from 10 to 11. So they can actually start on there, and it's online, so anyone can tune in. So if you go to our Facebook pages. we can share that info there.
Yeah. Also, how can people get a hold of you personally too, if they're interested?
You can, easy way to get a hold of me is just on Instagram at patty.patten. So PATTY.PATTEN. I check my messages there quite frequently. So perfect. Easiest way.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. And for me, I feel like I need to like be a better role model for my daughter and like talk about those things. Like I've never learned about like your pelvic floor when I was younger, so I can start her. Not she's 2, but like, but as we get older, right? Like it'll be like just a normal thing. So
it will be, and it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really should be. Yeah.
Well, thank you again.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.